Witches are not spirits. Egbury was a very handsome young man. He was the first son of 3 children born to his parents, but he was very lazy. The only things he knew how to do were to get drunk and womanize. His job was to lavish his parents' money because they were wealthy. He never for once thought about working to earn a living, but his brother, Per, was humble and hard-working even though he was from a wealthy family. Per was nothing like his older brother. He was his mother's favorite, and even his younger sister Abir loved him dearly, while Egbury continued to live a carefree, careless and reckless life. Per worked hard to own a business different from his parents' company. He wasn't solely dependent on his parents' wealth for survival. One fateful night, Egbury went out to drink as usual. He got so drunk that on his way driving back home, he accidentally hit a girl and she died on the spot. Egbury was arrested and taken into police custody, but just a few days later, his father paid for his release from custody, and even paid to bury the case so that his son Egbury would not go to prison. On hearing this, Egbury's mother became very angry and she confronted her husband. "Why did you pay for Egbury to be released?" she queried. Instead of seeing the wrong he had done, Egbury's father said that he could not let his son suffer in cell just because he had mistakenly killed a girl. Egbury's mother looked at her husband with disdain in her eyes. For a split second she regretted marrying him. She couldn't believe that he would allow wealth blind his eyes to the truth. She wondered why he couldn't see how his negative actions of continuously saving Egbury from bad situations he caused had encouraged Egbury to become a nuisance. She feared for what would become of Egbury if they were no longer on Earth. Egbury's younger brother Per was bothered about his older brother. He wanted him to change from his bad ways, because later in life, he would have no one to blame for his failure. But as they sat down and talked, Egbury refused to listen to Per. Instead he yelled at Per. He told Per never to advise him about life. "Go away from my presence," he yelled at him. Per, being the humble and gentle, quietly left his older brother and went his way. The next day, Egbury's parents and younger sister, Abir, set out to travel for a short fun-filled vacation. They all looked elegant, excited and full of life as they went on the journey, but it turned out to be an ill-fated day. Just a few hours after they left home, Egbury and Per received the horrible news. Their parents and sister were involved in a fatal accident, and while Abir sustained some injuries, their father and mother died on the spot. Egbury and Per were deeply hurt by the news and they both rushed to the scene of the accident. They initially refused to believe that their parents were dead. But as they saw their lifeless body being carried away, they couldn't hide their emotions and cried uncontrollably. For Per, it was genuine tears of pain, but for Egbury he cried because he didn't know what the future would be like for him, now that his parents were dead, especially his father. The unexpected death of their parents brought Egbury and Per to the reality that they had no inheritance to claim. Their father had left them with no inheritance. His property now belonged to the partnership company he belonged to, besides none of them were trained to take over from him. And for that, they had no right to claim the properties. This reality devastated Egbury. It simply meant that he wouldn't have any money to throw around. And to make things worse, he had no savings. Meanwhile, Per was well-to-do. His business had thrived before the tragic death of his parents. He could take care of his needs and even other people's needs if he so wished. Per knew that his brother had nowhere to go. He was completely useless to even himself. So, he offered Egbury a chance to live at his place on the condition that he would work to earn a living in his company. Egbury did not hesitate but accepted to live with his younger brother together with their younger sister Abir. After all, he had nowhere to go. As soon as he started living with Per, Egbury began to be lazy again. He refused to work at his brother's company after working for just 2 months. Egbury said he didn't enjoy working at the company, that he would look for a job elsewhere. But that was just a lie. Egbury was just being lazy. Months passed by and all he did was go out to get drunk and party with the little pocket money his brother gave him. He would return home very late at night. This continued for a while and one day, Per got tired of talking to him to change his attitude, so he asked him to leave. Egbury was wroth and threatened to deal with his brother for disgracing him. "I do not care what you do. Leave my house," Per said angrily and sent Egbury out of his house. From then, Egbury harbored hatred in his heart towards Per. "I'll leave your house," Egbury yelled back as he carried his belongings and left the house. Egbury lived a homeless life, squatting around with numerous of his friends until they all got so tired of his nonchalant and lazy lifestyle that they began to disassociate themselves from him. Soon, Egbury was stranded on the streets, sleeping from one clubhouse to the other, even to the extent of sleeping in abandoned or uncompleted buildings. His life became so miserable that he began to think that he had been bewitched. He refused to accept the fact that his reckless lifestyle had made his life so miserable. So he decided to go to church to find a solution to his predicament. Egbury did not waste time to locate a church he would attend. And within a few Sundays of attending the church, he decided to become a worker, just so he could get free accommodation. Egbury's idea of going to church to find a solution favored him. He finally got a decent roof over his head after becoming a worker in the church and letting them know that he had nowhere to stay. Egbury was swift and quickly formed a relationship with the pastor of the church. As their relationship deepened, Egbury told the pastor that he was from a wealthy home. He had a pitiful face as he narrated to the pastor how enemies had killed his parents in an orchestrated accident and that now nothing in his life was working, and he believed it was still those enemies that killed his parents that had made his life miserable. The pastor listened to his story and felt sorry for him. He had empathy for him and told Egbury that he was welcome to stay in the church for as long as he wanted. The church was his new family now, but he admonished him to be of good behavior. Months later, the pastor began to notice a change in Egbury's behavior. Egbury would tell the pastor that he was going out to visit a friend and stay out so late into the night, which was against the rules of staying in the church compound. Some days, he would miss church activities, and when the pastor asked, Egbury would lie that he wasn't feeling well. This went on and on for quite a while, until one day, the pastor summoned Egbury. "We will be fasting for 3 days and praying for you." The pastor said. Egbury, who knew he wasn't a devoted Christian but just a pretender who wanted accommodation, wasn't comfortable with the idea, yet he had no choice but to do the fast. "Okay, pastor," he answered reluctantly. The pastor, who thought he was doing the fasting to ward off enemies from Egbury's life, was insistent even though he noticed a slight disapproval on Egbury's face. The pastor had thought that Egbury's change in behavior was as a result of some fetish attack from the enemies that wanted to destroy Egbury. So, the fasting and praying started, and on the final day of the fasting, the pastor saw that what Egbury had told him earlier wasn't entirely the truth. It was revealed to the pastor that Egbury was the cause of his own problem and that no witches were after him. He had bewitched himself by his nonchalant behavior and was miserable because of it. On seeing this, the pastor told Egbury to change his bad behavior and stop thinking that witches were after him, but that Egbury himself was the wizard after his own life. After listening to what the pastor had to say, Egbury acknowledged what the pastor had told him, and after a few days of staying in the church, Egbury walked up to the pastor and told him that he wanted to go back to his family. The pastor, believing that Egbury was now a changed person, without hesitation, gave him the permission to go and be united with his family, urging him to visit whenever he wanted. Per and Ebir had just finished taking dinner when they heard a knock on the door. Per, being the protective older brother, went to check the door instead of Ebir. As he opened the door, he was surprised to see his older brother standing in front of him. Mixed emotions ran through him. He was surprised to see Egbury at his house, and at the same time he was happy to see him. "Come in, brother," he said excitedly, and invited him in. Ebir, who had just noticed the arrival of Egbury, ran and hugged him. "Welcome, brother," she said, feeling very happy. The siblings were united again. They were all they had since their parents died, and it wasn't easy being separated from each other. For Per, he felt bad that he had asked his brother to leave his house. He only wanted him to do better in life, since he was a man that would one day cater for his own family. Per tried to apologize to his older brother for sending him out of his house, but Egbury acknowledged that it was his fault for being lazy and for not also listening to their mother. He blamed their father for encouraging his bad behavior even though their mother warned him. From then on, Egbury began to live a changed life. He stopped getting drunk and partying all night. And the siblings, Egbury, Per and Ebir, lived together in harmony, becoming successful and finding fulfillment in their various endeavors. Ebir got admitted into the university and Per's business flourished even more. Meanwhile, Egbury began to work for his younger brother and learned a lot from his brother. After 2 years of working with him, Per encouraged Egbury to become a boss of his own. He helped Egbury to start up his business and introduced him to a few of his clients, and after a while, Egbury's business began to flourish too. Egbury felt happy and thanked his brother for being a good brother to him even though he was bad to him, as he began to see the good result of changing his bad behavior. Egbury believed that truly he was the wizard hunting himself. Sometimes, witches are not spirits, we become our own witches by the choices we make and the actions we take. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. Please, like, comment and subscribe for more amazing stories.